Bob Myers has basically told the Warriors, it's time. It's time. So the Warriors are now in the business of looking for a head of basketball operations guru, because it's not going to be Bob Myers for the first time in over 10 years.
The bottom line is this job, the one I'm in, and I would say this for any professional general manager or coach, requires complete engagement, complete effort, 1,000%. And if you can't do it, then you shouldn't do it. And so that's the answer to the question of why. I can't do that to our players. I can't do that to Joe and Peter. Really, I can't do it to myself. And that's a question I've been wrestling with. And it doesn't feel right to do something when I can't give it everything. And that's what it takes to do what we've done over the last, for me, 12 years.
And just like that, folks, the Bob Myers era in the Bay Area has come to its close. I mean, as much as we celebrate Steph Curry and the rest of the Golden State Warriors for their consistent success throughout the years, we also have to tip our hats off to Myers for putting together the building blocks that assembled the greatest dynasty to ever exist since the Bulls in the 90s. This dude was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes, orchestrating some of the biggest moves that helped the Warriors win 4 championships in the last decade. He was the guy responsible for bringing Steve Kerr in, for drafting Draymond Green and signing the biggest free agent talent in Kevin Durant back in 2016. He was also the one who drafted Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, and traded for Andrew Wiggins, pieces that were extremely vital in their championship run last year. Despite their ups and downs in the previous seasons, like the 2 years where most people considered them trash, dealing with Klay Thompson's injury, the Andrew Wiggins drama, and more recently, the feisty beef between Draymond and Poole, Myers was able to weather through all of it and managed to keep it together regardless of the circumstances he faced in those tough times. In addition, Myers is also one of those GMs that has established a strong bond with his players, most notably with Steph Curry. The culture that he and Kerr built was extremely important to their championship success, and his words definitely have a lot of weight and resonated to the rest of the locker room. So replacing someone that has a tremendous gravitas like Myers is not going to be an easy task at all.
You know, some people say that GMs shouldn't be, don't get close to the players. You might have to cut them, or make it emotional, not pay them, or whatever it is. I kind of push back and go, what is the point of any job if you don't like and build relationships with who do you go to work with? What is the point? Some would say to win. Okay, but who are you doing that with? And what happens after that?
Anyways, with Myers out of the picture, the future looks a bit foggy now for the Warriors, and on top of Myers' departure, here are some of the problems that the Warriors have to closely look into this offseason. See, on top of the list, they have to deal with the Draymond situation first. Next, Klay is due for a $43 million payday next season, and his contract is about to expire too. Then, JP3's $140 million extension will also start to kick in this fall. And ultimately, if the Dubs decided to run it back and keep their pieces intact with Draymond included, they'll have to pay a hefty sum of over $500 million in salaries and taxes combined because of the new stipulations added under the newly renegotiated CBA. The Dubs are at a crossroads right now, and with the way their current roster is structured, it's still unclear to many on what direction they're going to take moving forward. I mean, on one side, you got the aging core of Steph, Draymond, and Klay, and on the other, you got the young guns like Poole, Moody, Kuminga, and Wiggins. Having said all this, is it finally the right time for the Dubs to push for a complete rebuild by letting their vets go? Or do they just need to retool and stick with what they've got right now? And regardless if it's a rebuild or just minor retooling, the next question now is, which pieces are they going to move? And how are they going to make the new acquisitions fit with the Dubs culture, now that the man at the top has already left? These are just some of the major things that they've got to think about really hard. And to put it simply, this is actually a make-or-break type of decision here for the Golden State Warriors, as their dynasty is on the line here, and whatever decision they'll come up with will definitely define their future, be it for better or worse. Anyways, whoever the successor of Myers might be will definitely have big shoes to fill. And speaking of which, let's now switch gears for a sec and talk about the possible candidates for the vacant post that Myers just left. Among the bunch of names being floated around in the internet, several reports have stated that the president/general manager job will fall in the hands of Mike Dunleavy Jr., a successful journeyman and a 15-year NBA vet. Dunleavy was drafted and played his first 4 seasons with Golden State before hopping to teams like Indiana, Chicago, Milwaukee, Atlanta, and Cleveland. After hanging his sneakers at the end of the 2017 season, Dunleavy was hired as a pro scout by the Warriors a year later. Shortly after that, Dunleavy quickly rose through the ranks as he was promoted to assistant GM in 2019 before becoming vice president of basketball operations just 2 years later. Myers publicly vouched for him during his farewell press conference, and should the Dubs go on and pick Dunleavy, I really feel that he'll do a good job since he's already had a ton of experience working side by side with Myers as his right-hand man, and having someone who has played the game as GM will definitely bring a lot of positives as well. Now, the next one might not be a popular choice among many, but this next candidate can definitely bring instant impact should he get the post.
There's nobody I like watching or hearing break down the game that's already played the game in the Hall of Fame and is on the set with Arbante Hill. Chris Mullin. I mean that. He recognizes talent. He knows how to get his message across to the kids because, he coached at St. John's. When you hear that name, I don't know how you categorize. We've never talked about, because he was in this position before, Steiny, could he do it and would he want to do it? But I think he would be good at it.
A Warrior living legend and a former Warriors executive, Chris Mullin is also going to be another interesting choice for the position that Myers has vacated. Mullin has already established himself as one of the most popular sports figures in the Bay Area, and there's no doubt that Dub Nation will root for him no matter what. In terms of his credentials and achievements, Mullin was responsible for bringing in Don Nelson as the Warriors head coach in 2006. He was the one who pulled the blockbuster trade that sent Baron Davis to the Dubs, the acquisition of Steven Jackson and Al Harrington from Indiana, and Mullin was also in charge of drafting Monte Ellis. And these moves eventually became the pillars of the We Believe Warriors team that shocked the world when they defeated the number 1 seeded Dallas Mavericks back in the 2007 playoffs. Anyways, last but not least, another great choice for the Warriors' vacant GM position would be someone from their own ranks. And if I'm Joe Lacob, I'll definitely consider Steve Kerr for this particular role. This would be the most ideal transition for the Dubs if this pushes through. Because not only does Kerr know how the Dubs culture works, but he also knows the people around him and has built a strong bond with the current players, especially with their core of Draymond, Clay, and Steph. Elevating Kerr to the executive role is not entirely new in the NBA landscape, because if you remember back in 2021, Brad Stevens was promoted to the GM role after Danny Ainge retired. And in his first year, he hired Ime Udoka as head coach, which eventually produced great results as the Celtics went to the finals that year. And in the East, then longtime Heat coach/president Pat Riley tapped Eric Spoelstra to take the reins as head coach. And as we all know, Spo has since led the Heat to 6 finals appearances with 2 NBA championships under his belt. If Kerr does indeed get promoted to GM, he can hire one of his trusted lieutenants, like Kenny Atkinson, as head coach. And if this happens, I believe that the transition from the Myers era will be much smoother and less chaotic since the new guy in charge is already familiarized with the ins and outs of working within the Dubs organization.